What's good, everyone? It's John Wosu coming at you with Bright Tomorrow and Think Diff LLC. I just want to welcome you to the Shop Right series. The reason we're calling this Shop Right is because it's really helpful to think of things in terms of money, because everyone knows about money, right? Everyone knows a little bit about money. But that's going to help us be able to understand our emotions too, and also understand who is taking more of our emotions away, right? Who is taking more of our positive emotions away, and who is giving us more positive emotions, because that's going to be super important. You already know the drill. It's time to develop your skills and will to heal, pay the bills, and be fulfilled. So what does all that mean? Well, first, when we talk about drill, we're talking about habits, right? I want you to finish this sentence. Stop, drop, and I'm sure you were thinking roll, even if you were too cool to say it. But the reality is that when we talk about drill, you know exactly what comes next, because you've practiced, you've done it over and over again, and you're prepared for whatever situation comes ahead of you. So we need to make sure that we're focusing on the right habits so that whenever life hits us, we know how to respond in a helpful and healthy way. Then, if we don't have those habits already, we got to develop them, right? And so when we talk about development, I'm saying positive growth. And so show up, grow up, glow up, and sew up. And so you got to show up, attend, in order to grow up, behave, so that you can glow up, achieve, and ultimately, when you've been achieving, we need you to sow up, right? You need to plant positive seeds to improve the climate and culture that you're in. You want to make sure that you're adding to whatever space you're in and not taking away from it. So how do you develop? Well, you got to have the right skills. And a lot of times when we're talking about skills, in this situation, we're going to be talking about social and emotional skills. You got to know how to manage your emotions. You have to know who to spend your time with and how to make the right healthy types of decisions that are going to help you get to wherever it is you're trying to go in life. And you got to make sure that you have the will. You got to make sure you have the right motivation to keep you going even when things get hard, because it's life. Part of life is difficulty. And in reality, the things that are worth having the most in life often are not easy to come by, right? You're going to have to earn it. And there are also some things that are unfair, right? There are some challenges that you're going to experience. And the reality is you're still going to have to find the motivation to get through them so that you can make your life better, but also so that you can change the things that make your life more difficult and hopefully make things a little less hard for people that are coming after you, right? And then you got to heal, because life is hard. And just from normal wear and tear from living every day, you're going to get stressed. You're going to have some unpleasant emotions that you're going to have to understand and learn how to process and heal from. The reality is also you might experience high levels of stress. It might get kind of toxic, might even be traumatic sometimes. And so it's important for you to understand how to heal and recover so that ultimately you can pay the bills. And when I talk about paying, I'm not only talking about money. We're not only talking about dollars, right? We're talking about lots of other things that you essentially can trade for something else. And we're going to talk more about that. But the bills that I'm talking about are things that you need, and even some of your wants, things that you absolutely can't live without, and some things that you really wouldn't want to live without. And so all the stuff that we talked about so far is going to help put you in a position to be able to afford the things that you need and want. And ultimately, I think fulfillment is super important, right? If you're living a life and you're not fulfilled, then you're going to feel like there are some things missing. And you might try to fill those gaps and those holes with things that aren't actually going to make things better. And people do it all the time. So it's important for us to understand what it means to be fulfilled and what that's like, so that we can create our lives and put all our effort towards becoming ourselves, a better version of ourselves that will allow us to create a life that will help us enjoy and find meaning in the things that we're doing. We're going to roll into the next part of today's lesson. Hey, we are going to be talking about social and emotional learning skills. Specifically, we're going to be focusing on self-management. And we are going to be talking about three things. Number one, managing emotions. Number two, identifying and using strategies for reducing stress. And then number 3, we're going to be talking about planning and organizational skills. All right. So if you remember right now, you are still in line and y'all basically don't have any money because you were supposed to grab the wallet off the table that your mom, dad, uncle, aunt, grandma, grandpa asked you to, and you forgot. You weren't really paying attention, and now you all are at the checkout, and it's been a long day, long line, and the cashier is looking at you like, what's about to happen? So you might be feeling any type of way. You might be feeling guilty. You might be feeling guiltless. But what we're going to be focused on right now is figuring out how is it that you feel right now. So first, one tool that I really use that's very helpful is a scale. And I just ask, on a scale from 1 to 10, how are you feeling? 10 is amazing, 1 is terrible. You can use it with many different options. You can say, how stressed out are you? You can say, how upset are you? Lots of different ways to use that scale. And so a lot of times people might give different responses, but it's important for you to know what those numbers mean for you, because a 7 for you might be a 9 for someone else or a 3 for a different person. So let's say if you're feeling guilty, maybe you're probably about a 4, and normally you're at about an 8. So you're feeling a little stressed out, a little guilty, a little uncomfortable, a little sad, disappointed maybe. Some may be feeling different emotions, right? Like I said, you might be feeling guiltless. You might be feeling nonchalant about it. You might be feeling defensive, right? So it's just important to really understand where you are, and the scaling questions really help with that. Next, it's really important to be able to recognize how your body communicates the emotions that you're experiencing. And like I said in the last video, for me, there are different parts of my body that let me know that I'm upset. I might be feeling really, really upset and not know it, but my earlobes are warm or the back of my neck gets tight, and that's how I'm like, oh man, I'm upset about something. Something's bothering me more than I thought it was. And sometimes it happens like that. Sometimes I experience the emotion first. Sometimes I feel the bodily response before I experience or realize I'm experiencing the feeling or the emotion. And so another thing might be that you might get nervous, right? And so your body might make your stomach hurt, right? Your stomach may feel nauseous, or you may feel a little sick or queasy. And they say sometimes you have butterflies in your stomach. Yeah, maybe when you're nervous, that's what happens. So it's really important to kind of recognize the signs that your body is showing to let you know that you're feeling some type of way. So one way that I really like to make this idea stick, is thinking about your cell phone. And if you don't have a cell phone, your tablet, or anything that's rechargeable. And so for me, I know that I try to keep my phone charged up, right? And everyone has a different stage and a different point that they decide, hey, I need to go plug up my phone, I need some more juice. And for me, I don't like my phone to get below 50%, right? I try to find a charger nearby as soon as my phone gets below like 60 or 50%, right? And really, the phone is still acting pretty normally, but I just know I need to get that charged up, right? I'm trying to be proactive. But what I notice is that when I let my phone get below like 20%, like a little red light flashes, the screen will change up to try to save battery. Like it starts behaving differently. And if I don't get my phone to a charger source soon, then eventually it's gonna go off. And so what I do to keep my phone from going off is making sure that I plug it in and give it the juice, charge it up, give it what it needs so that it can function effectively well before it gets to 20% or 5% or even 1%. My phone almost never charges off now, right? So it's important when we talk about our emotions, because we really care about our phones, right? We really, really like our phones, and we need to treat our bodies and ourselves and our minds like our phones, because we don't like those phones to go off, and we also don't need to be going off, right? So what is it that you need to do to keep yourself from going off, right? Because Just like your phone may behave differently at 20% than it does at 50%, or at 1% than it does at 20%, you do too, right? And it's important for you to be able to recognize what your 50%, what your 75%, what your 25%, what your 1% looks like before you go off, so that you can make sure you get charged up by the right things to help give you the energy and the good vibes to keep moving in a positive way. Am I making sense? Right? So look, when we talk about what that looks like, one of the really powerful techniques that I think we overlook is breathing. Right? You might be saying, Mr. Wosu, that's weird, that's whack. I breathe all the time. I don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, breathing is really important, because when we start to get frustrated and flustered, our breathing often gets thrown off. And sometimes we can regulate our emotions by regulating our breathing. And so I'm going to teach a couple of techniques that can be helpful really quickly, and you got to use them. At the end of the day, you can put them in your toolbox. I want you to think about whether or not you can see yourself using them and if they be helpful, and then just put them in your toolbox, and you got to remember to actually use the tool when it's time to go. All right. So the first one is box breathing. Box breathing is where you inhale slowly for 4 seconds, and then you hold it for 4 seconds, and then you exhale slowly for 4 seconds, and then you hold it again for 4 seconds. All right. And it creates like a box. You know what I mean? That's why they call it box breathing, right? And so really, I want for you to try this with me. And this time when you do it, we're actually gonna count while we breathe in slowly. All right, so on 3, I'm gonna inhale, and I want you to do it with me. All right, 1, 2, 3, inhale slowly. Hold it. Exhale slowly. Hold it. All right. So now, I told you I use scaling all the time. On a scale from 1 to 10, 10 is I would definitely use this. 1 is I would never ever do this. I don't think it will work at all. I want for you to just think about where you are on that scale. Is this something that you think could be valuable, or is it something that you would never ever use? And I want you to also give it a chance, because you maybe haven't ever tried it before. It may be something new, and the reality is you're going to have to do it more than once to get comfortable with it. And a lot of times you may have to do it for a minute. You may have to do it multiple times over the course of several minutes. But this is a technique that is very helpful, and it's helpful to a lot of people. So I think it might be helpful for you. Now I want us to think about some ways that we can really manage our stress in a healthy way. Okay, so when we talk about stress management strategies, first, I want you to think about 3 things. 1 is during, 2 is after, and 3 is before. All right, so when we're in the moment, there are lots of different things that we can try. We already talked about breathing and how important that is to do. And we want to make sure that when we're in the heat of the moment, first we want to check in with ourselves. And we want to really be able to pay attention to our self-talk, because a lot of times we say things to ourselves that we would never ever say to anyone else. It's okay for you to check that and make sure that you're not saying things that are making things better, not worse, right? So you might be thinking, man, I always mess up. I messed up earlier today. Now I'm going through this. Man, the world is against me. Man, I don't know what I'm going to do. Man, this is terrible, right? You may be thinking all of this stuff, and it's honestly okay, right? When you're upset, sometimes you think about some things that you don't normally think about. The important thing is not to stay there, right? You want to make sure that you begin to introduce some self-talk that's going to help you figure things out. Like, okay, I'm not where I need to be right now, but I can get there with some help, right? Or even though I messed up, I'm not messed up, right? Even though I made a mistake, I'm not a mistake. Right? Or even, how can I fix this, right? Versus, I can't do this, how can I do this, right? What would help me be successful right now? Start asking those kind of questions to yourself. Or, hey, even look, it's gonna be okay. I know I messed up, but it's gonna be okay. We're gonna figure it out. And sometimes it helps to be around people who already have that positive talk, so that you can get on their wavelength, because there are some people who are just calm under pressure, and it's good to make sure that you find yourself around them as often as possible. All right, so next you want to make sure that you use the breathing and counting as much as possible. Even if you're like in a public space, you don't have to count like this. Sometimes you can just tap your leg or something, or you can put your hands together like this and you can just, tap a part of, or you can even tap your foot. But that breathing while you're tapping can really help you calm down. And it may not fix everything, but it can help give you more mental energy to focus on the task at hand so you can make a better decision and ultimately make things better, not worse. Right? And then we also can always ask for a moment, right? Hey, can I have a moment to think? Can I just have a moment to figure something out real quick? Just give me a second. Right? You don't even have to explain. You just, hey, just give me a second and I'll be right back to you. And that sometimes can give you space to figure stuff out so that, again, you can make things better, not worse. So when you're in the moment, those are some things that can be very helpful. And then after the fact, it's really helpful to make sure that calming down, the breathing, again, is super important. Sometimes just deep breaths. Inhaling and exhale can be important to really help you calm down. You don't even have to do the full techniques. You don't have to do the box breathing or 2-to-1, but sometimes just a deep, calm breath can be very helpful. Then you want to spend some time with supportive people. And if you remember the emotional bank account, make sure you're finding depositors. Who are some people that are going to be putting positive deposits into your account? You want to spend some time with those folks. And then maybe even listening to music, exercising, and then maybe even reflecting on how you even got to that point, right? Because that's going to help you ultimately prevent the things that are going to lead you to negative emotions, right? You want to make sure you're being proactive and preventive. And so sometimes just reflecting on, man, how did I get here? Okay, maybe next time if I do this differently, then I won't be here in this unpleasant situation, right? So having that conversation with yourself can really be helpful. And even writing stuff down can be super helpful. So if you have a journal or if you keep a diary, or if you just want to take notes, right? I know we post a lot, whether you're on whatever platform, you might be on Snapchat or Instagram or something else, but we post all the time about what's going on in our life. Use that time to be intentional and write about what happened, right? And what went wrong and how you can make it go right next time. So we thought about during, we thought about after. Let's think about before. How do we prevent stuff like this from happening in the first place? Well, one thing you can do is improve your routines and use a schedule. Then that can be super helpful. Now, where else can that stuff be helpful? When we talk about schedules and routines and lists, well, the reality is when we talk about your work at school or in extracurricular activities, all of this stuff is super helpful too. So you using those organization tips can really be transferable across many different areas of your life. So if you have some assignments in school that you need to get done, and as you get older, you're going to have more classes that you have to keep up with, what are you going to do? Right? And some of you may not even go to the same class every day. You might be on a block schedule and going to different classes on different days. So remember, having your routine together, having a checklist and a to-do list can be super helpful to help keep you organized, to know what you have to do in the first place, and then keep track of how much stuff you've actually completed and how much you have left to do. Getting your routine together and not procrastinating can be super helpful. So making sure that you do the most important things first and don't save those things for last. Because if you play the game, right, and you forget to do your homework, or if you wait till the last minute to do your homework, it's going to cause more damage than if you do your homework first and then play the game after, right? So if you lose on the game, you can always play again. But if you lose in the class and you catch an F, right, that's going to mess with your grades. It's going to make it harder for you to go to the next level. And when you get to high school, you need a certain amount of credits in order to get to the next level. And so if you don't pass a class, then you're going to have to take it again. So I would rather lose a game than lose a whole grade level. And it may not happen once, right? But if you have the habits, chances are, if you have bad habits, you're going to keep procrastinating. You're going to keep doing things that end up making stuff worse, not better. And it's going to build up to you having to retake an entire grade level again, right? Because the little things add up. So I want you to really make sure that you're focusing on having the good habits and doing the right things first, the things that are most important first. And you know, the game and stuff is gonna be there. Whatever your thing is, right? It may not be the game, it may be Instagram, it may be Snapchat, social media, maybe movies, maybe Netflix, it may be Hulu, it may be something else. But whatever your distractor is, the thing that's taken away from what's most important, then you know, give that thing a pause, right? Take a break so that you can focus on what's most important. All right, so today we talked about making sure that you're able to identify and be aware of your emotions. We talked about making sure that you are aware of your self-management strategies. And then we talked about some planning and organization skills that'll help you proactively put yourself in a situation where you can avoid stress and unpleasant emotions in the first place. You can't control all that stuff. Sometimes it's, you know, you're just gonna experience some unpleasant stuff, and that's a part of life, and that's okay. And it's not whether or not we ever fall down, right? Because you're gonna fall, you're gonna fail sometimes, you're gonna catch an L, but it's about how you turn those L's into lessons so that you can be better after you go through them than you were before you went through them, all right? So, like I said, man, I'm Mr. Wosu. I really appreciate you all checking in. And make sure you contact me if you have any questions or comments, or if you just want to say what's up. Make sure you like and subscribe, share if you enjoyed this, you found it valuable, and make sure you make your next step your best step. Peace.